All right, everyone. So I'm Zachary Fink, the Vice President of NY-GEO. All right, everyone, we're starting the dinner program. That means if you're having a great conversation, please take it into the hallway or the bar afterwards. All right, so everyone, I'm Zach Fink, ZBF Geothermal, Vice President of NY-GEO, and really excited to be having this conference in Brooklyn, as you have all heard. As the token downstate guy, everyone keeps going to me, why would we do a Brooklyn conference? Why would we go there? And I keep going, this is where all the buildings are. This is where you get the big projects, the cool projects. So I hope everyone had a really great time on the site tours. And that, it was a feature that was worthwhile and something that we'll continue to do in, future years. So, all right, so we have an action-packed dinner program for you guys tonight. For those of you that have been at a NY-GEO dinner before, we have a few sponsors, Top Job Award. We have IGSHPA and GeoExchange giving an update. And then we have Donovan and Sadie from CPC as our keynote. For those of you that do not know, 10 years ago, NY-GEO hosted its first conference. Further, for you those of you that do not know, once you get on the board of NY-GEO, it is basically impossible to get off of it. So, towards the end of the program, we'll bring up the board members. Many of us have been founding board members of the organization. If anyone would like my board member seat, it's for sale later. You're guaranteed at least a 10-year term. And you dedicate at least an hour of your life every week to this organization and shut down your company right around conference time. So, all right, so first of all, I'm going to call up Kyle Sweeney, Allied Geothermal. So Allied had sponsored our dinner tonight. And Kyle will say a few words for us.
Zach told me I had to do this in under 30 minutes, so I'll keep it under there.
We have been known to cut microphones if you keep rambling, so just keep going.
He did omit the number one reason why the conference is in Brooklyn, which is it's closest to his home. So about 15 miles, I'd say, right? Not even.
About 30.
30.
So about 3 hours for those of you that know New York City traffic.
So, well, good evening, everyone. It's an absolute honor to be standing here before you today on behalf of Allied Geothermal. First and foremost, I want to extend a gracious thank you to the entire NY-GEO community, and specifically the board for hosting yet another incredible event. Year after year, this conference grows, and not just by numbers of people, but by significance of our industry and the state in which it stands. As we've seen the growth, this is a huge testament to the hard work, vision, and commitment of everyone in this room. For those of us at Allied, being a part of this dynamic, forward-thinking community is something we're truly proud of. NY-GEO has become more than just an event for us. It's a catalyst for innovation, a platform for meaningful collaboration, and a place where the brightest and boldest minds in the industry are coming together. Over the past few years, we've witnessed tremendous progress in the geothermal sector. The increasing adoption of clean, renewable energy solutions is reshaping our industry and redefining our future. And it's no small feat. This success is a result of the collaborative effort of the people in this room, many individuals, companies, and organizations that believe in the power of geothermal and can make a real difference. Together, we've not only expanded the reach of geothermal technology, but also strengthened its role to help New York's achieve its ambitious climate goals. And while we take pride in our own accomplishments, we know none of this would be possible without the support and collaboration from all of you here. At Allied, we've committed to pushing the boundaries wherever that's possible. We've grown the company to over 200 employees with 30-plus rigs operating in 19 states today. We believe that by continuing to work together, share our knowledge, challenging others, and challenging ourselves, we will drive progress for many years to come. This is just the beginning, and we're excited to be on this journey with all of you. In closing, we want to extend our deepest gratitude to the organizers, the sponsors, and most importantly, the participants that make this such a wonderful event. Your dedication, hard work are what fuel the growth of this conference and the industry at large. Thank you for your continued partnership, your vision, and being part of an incredible journey. Let's continue to push and lead our way in creating a sustainable geo-powered future. Thank you.
So, thank you, Kyle. You did a very good job of keeping it under 3 minutes. But no, seriously, Allied has been a dinner sponsor for the last few years for us, so we really appreciate that. And we appreciate all the sponsors here. We could not have had this conference and been financially successful and actually be able to host a downstate conference without our sponsors. I should have done it before, but thank you, especially Con Ed. We created a presenting sponsorship level this year, and some of my people go, "Are you really going to sell it for that much?" I go, "It's downstate. People have money. Someone will take it." So we really do appreciate Con Ed stepping up, not only for the rebate program that they have, but the conference sponsorship, and really just helping try to drive the industry forward. So with that, I'm going to introduce John Thomas, the president and CEO of Water Furnace International and GeoStar, to present the Top Job Awards.
Thank you, Zach. Well, it's been a long day. Lots of great sessions, lots of great content. When I reflect on all the insights and the wisdom and the experience that was presented today, and I look out over this room and see all the energy, I'm surprised it wasn't a lot more expensive to sponsor this competition that we're up here for.
I just heard the conference doubles in sponsorship next year.
Did I just say that out loud? I wasn't supposed to say that out loud. It's our pleasure on behalf of the GeoStar brand and the Water Furnace team. It's our pleasure to help and continue support not only a tradition that was started by one of our favorite pioneers in the industry, Mr. John Manning, with Phoenix Supply. John's son Jeff is here somewhere, but this is the genesis of why we have the GeoStar Top Jobs Award. There's a famous saying that says, "Fortune favors the bold and the prepared." There's a lot of bold, prepared, brave, persistent people in this room. Some of them have been in the industry for a long time, and some of them are just getting started. And when you're driving change and doing things different, it takes bravery and persistence. And I think that's a good tagline to think about the winners of the 3 categories that we've established. These people are brave and they're persistent, or they wouldn't have achieved the level of success that they have in business, and a small way of recognizing them in this competition. So with that, if Bruce Cole, who leads our residential segment, would come up and play Vanna White for me. We would like to introduce the 3 categories. The first category is for Halco Energy, for the retrofit of Hal Smith, who is the owner of Halco Systems in New York, and it is, I would say, it must be like a dream home that he purchased here. It's an extensive residence. It was over a 20-ton installation in a building that had no air conditioning and only a steam boiler. And they're going to turn it into from the presentation this afternoon, they're going to turn it into a bed and breakfast. So a little free advertisement for the Halco team. And so if Matt Dennis would start making his way up to the stage. All right, perfect. Thank you, Matt. We'll come downstairs and meet you there. So an extensive retrofit with 9,000 feet of horizontal trench loop. And another interesting fun fact, all the domestic hot water is provided by the GEO system, and the facility has 18 bathrooms in it. I don't know why it's relevant, but I thought it was interesting. 18 bathrooms. A lot of hot water. So very appropriate for Hal and the Halco team. Hal has been a longtime supporter of the GeoStar brand, so we appreciate their business. Matt, would you like to say anything to the group? Allowed to make one wisdom comment to the group on how to do projects like this.
Put me on the spot. Well, yeah, I mean, John had asked to say, you know, what's one sort of unique thing about this, and there's a bunch of them, so it's kind of hard to pick one, but it basically just goes to show how you can make geothermal work from as a whole house solution. You know, this is a big house. We put in a commercial grade system in a fairly large residence, and you know, you can do heat, you can do cooling, you can do domestic hot water, and it's all 100% geo. So it can be done, and to make it work with a historical home, it was not easy by any means, but we made it work. So, yeah, that's
Perfect.
word of wisdom.
Perfect. Thank you. The second category was in the commercial sector, and it's a building that comprised itself of 270,000 square feet, 17 stories. So if you're saying you can only do 6 stories and below with geo, this is a brave and bold statement. Certainly you can do high-rise buildings. I think the key thing here is they actually got the HVAC and the geo folks to get connected with the civil engineers at the beginning of the onset of the construction of the building, and so they could integrate 40% of the ground loops in the pilings and the foundation of the building. It's a concept that when you see it on paper, you say, wow, this is the way every building ought to be built. But I think Endurant Energy and Tony would tell us it may not be quite that easy. But Tony, if you would start making your way to the front of the room. Congratulations to the Endurant team. They were able to integrate. Come on up here. They were able to integrate over 40% of the ground loop system into the pilings. And they did it at a 1.2% cost premium over standard unitary HVAC technology. So I think there's a lesson learned there. Congratulations. Yep. Jump in here. Want to take 6 or 7 more, or are you good? Okay. Okay, congratulations, Endurant.
Can I just say my kind of like...
Oh, I wasn't going to let you talk,
10
Tony.
seconds. So.
I wasn't going to let you talk. No, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to tell people that, I mean, since I've been here in America, it's all about, okay, where am I going to drill boreholes? There are many other options than drilling boreholes. There's concerns about labor force and things like that. But you need to think outside the box. And, you know, this project is a classic example in new build where you've got deep foundations, put a geothermal loop in it. It's very, very simple. So, yeah, I just wanted to raise the profile that there is other ways of making geothermal happen. So, yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for the award. And, yeah, enjoy the evening.
Perfect. Congratulations. Thank you. I think the lesson is it can be simple if you know what the heck you're doing. So congratulations to the Endurant team. The last winning category was the category of commercial drilling. And this is a unique project. It's the first thermal energy network on large scale that's been publicized in the U.S., and it's started a bit of a firestorm of well over 25 different projects on ambient temperature loop thermal energy networks across the eastern part of the U.S. So congratulations to the Celsius Energy team and the Eversource team, who is the sponsor of the first utility-owned thermal energy network in the U.S. Johnny Fry, if you want to start making your way up here. Is Eric Bosworth here? Okay. So this particular project, if you're not familiar with it, there's going to be a lot more publicity that comes out on it. Consists of 1 mile of loop. It's 3 bore fields with 90 bores and 37 buildings. And the unique thing, and the reason it won the drilling award, is with either you want to call modified vertical, or if you want to call vertical, or what was the term you used? Inclined pyramid? Inclined pyramid drilling. That's a new glossary term for us. Basically, they're setting up the drill rig and they're directionally going out in an angular way from the same spot, reduces the number of setups for the drill rig. You can operate in a very small footprint, and you basically create a cone of loops that are in the ground. So it's much more efficient, much more cost effective. And they were able to reduce the design of the bore field from 60 bores down to 35, which if I did my 6th grade math right, that's a little over a 40% decrease. So that's the main reason why they won the award. Congratulations. Perfect. Johnny, if you want to make a couple comments.
Man, I think that first and foremost, John was listening to our session because he nailed that incredibly well. I would say I don't have anything to add other than just thank you to NY-GEO. Thank you, of course, to Eversource, Home Energy Efficiency Team, or Heat. Zainab, you're lurking around here somewhere. You've been incredible in terms of the public utility space, making that project live and become real. And just certainly it takes many different collaborators to make these projects work, and certainly special thanks to CDM Smith, the engineer of record, huge in terms of allowing us to redesign that system, support verification of thermal capacity. R.H. White, the construction manager, who was incredible to work with throughout that entire project, as well as Midwest Geothermal, who was a key as well support party in terms of the vertical well placement at the other 2 bore fields. So thank you guys very much.
So congratulations to the Celsius team, and now I'll shamelessly take the opportunity, since we did actually sponsor this segment of the program, to say your engagement matters, your energy matters, your experience matters. It gives the rest of us energy, confidence, and the opportunity to be brave and bold. Water furnace in our 41st year, we're in the process, and we're about 50% of the way through tripling the square footage of our operating facility. It's your energy that gives us the optimism to make that happen. And we all feed off of each other's energy. So we're going to have excess floor space. We need to fill it up, so bring it. Bring it on. Bring it on. Thank you.
All right, so as John Thomas mentioned, very few of these geothermal projects happen without a network and an industry. So, it's really the members in this room working together that are able to execute a project. It was mentioned a driller, a construction manager, an equipment manufacturer, an engineer, a utility, all coming together in order to execute a project. And that's really what this conference is about, making the connections so we can do business together and grow the industry, grow more projects. So on that note, I am going to introduce Jack Deanna, who's the board chair of IGSHPA, and Ryan Doherty, who's the president of GeoExchange. So both the educational and the advocacy arm for the industry, for those of you that don't know. And with that, I'll let Jack get started. For those of you that don't know Jack, I don't know how you haven't met him yet. You're dead. He might be the loudest 4'11" person in the room. And just as a tidbit, one of the first times I met Jack was at an IGSHPA conference, and we made fun of the amount of flags Jack had. I had to say no to so many flags today, otherwise my flags would have been taller than Jack. Sorry, I had to Jack.
I was actually 6 foot when they met me. So here's the thing, and John, great job, John. I've got a whole list of things here for IGSHPA, but I got to say, when I walked in, I wasn't sure I was at NY-GEO because I saw Bill Nowak with a friggin' suit and tie on and shoes. The local hippie, he and I were the only two here that was at Woodstock. And I'm not wearing a tie. But this has been great. And I was one of the naysayers, Zach, when you said, let's go to Brooklyn. I went, oh, Christ, that's not going to be good. It's terrific. And I'll tell you what, this conference, and I've been to 40 years of these conferences, this is one of the best conferences, not only in content, but actually look around for us old guys like Garen Eubank and Michael Albertson and myself. Look at all the young people in here. Better yet, look at all the young people that are interested in this, like the Rathbones. They're here somewhere, John Rathbone and his wife Amy. These are the things that are going to make this industry real. So IGSHPA, getting back to why I'm up here, IGSHPA has, just from Albany, there's a lot of things happening. Membership, our new membership program, it was effective in January, has provided new opportunities for business to work with IGSHPA. You can get in our business directory now very, very cheaply. In fact, I want to announce that we're giving a discount for NY-GEO members. It's usually $200. It's $175 to get into our business directory, that we probably get a call 20 to 30 times a month asking, who is doing this in my area? Well, if you're not in that business directory, nobody's going to call you. So it's cheap advertising. In fact, if you work for John Thomas, we have co-op advertising or Entertech or Climate Master. There's ways to do this. So we need you with us, okay? Discounted membership for retirees and seniors. And students. I shouldn't even said that. So we're not, all of us old guys aren't retired yet. Training. Those of you that were in Lisa Moline's program today, it was a great program, and you can see from what she's done, our training is moving forward, okay? And this is what's going to keep us rational. This is what's going to take us to the next level. For you young folks, you're in the right time. The only thing I regret is that I'm 78 and not 38, okay? Because this is really where it's at. Training committee, we're working on modernizing the accredited installer course. Residential installation technician, that's complete. Residential service technician, that's complete. We did our first trainer for the above two courses when it was in August. We have 18 trainers. Residential designer, that'll be out in 2025. Outside loop modules, spring of 2025. The IGSHPA staff, and by the way, we have two IGSHPA staff here, Sally and Greg. They're terrific. Sally's the queen of IGSHPA. She keeps everybody in line. Anybody that doesn't know Sally, she's the one with all the stick-on tattoos and the blonde hair. IGSHPA staff, GEO 101 for electric co-ops, complete. She's going to kill me for that remark. First, train the trainer. Let me see where I'm at. Selecting a GSHP team 5-hour webinar, that's complete. That's for utilities. And here's the thing. I've got 3 initiatives that I'm working on right now. Pre-K to 12 schools. There's 131,000 pre-K to 12 schools in the United States. 50% of them have failing HVAC systems. Does anybody know how old the average school is in the United States? 50 years old, which means that I could have gone to some of these schools, which is really stupid, if I went to school. GEO 101 for IOUs, that's complete. That's getting completed. It's in the works. It'll be out spring 2025. We're continuing to look at new webinars. If you get to our Dig Deeper webinars, please tune in. CSA contract for accredited curriculum and certification programs. Based upon job description in the GHPC report, which is very familiar to me from DOE, working on 14 self-paced web-based training modules. These are Jeff's notes. I wouldn't be talking this long about reading anything. But instructor-led commercial design training nearing completion. There'll be a trial run in March. All this is being predicated because of the work that Lisa Moline and the CSA group is doing, which is terrific. It's making us take into the next level. Now, IGSHPA will sunset the 2017 standards when the new edition of our standards is published. Now, to the important part. The IGSHPA conference will be in Illinois in March of this year. I expect to see everybody in this room there, okay? That's just a little bit aggressive, but what the hell?
And this is where Jack announces a 50% discount, something like that, right?
I did. We usually charge $7,000. It's now only $1,000. So here's the deal, guys. For those of you brand new in this technology, this is a triple E technology. Triple E, now remember that. Energy independence and security, first E. Second E, environmental stability and resilience. Third E, economic prosperity and stability. Or stability. Sustainability. I can't read my own writing. So we're asking people that all we're asking you to do is use the energy you already own under your feet. This ain't brain surgery, right? It isn't about the rheostats and are you getting hooked ready? It isn't about rheostats and hemoglobins, it's about what we're doing. Great conference, Zach, you were right, I was wrong. Congratulations. Keep the faith, folks. Ryan, you're on.
So for those of you that don't know, my wife is here, and she has finally decided to figure out what I do for a living. And Jack had a great ending joke, and we didn't plan this, but my wife's a doctor, so she talks medical terms all day, I talk geothermal terms all day, and somehow we figure out what each other do, kind of. So there'll be a quiz later on what a borehole is, what a heat pump is, you know. Okay, so Ryan, you're up.
Zach, what I want to know is, in Albany next year, can we do like a charity roast of Jack Deanna, I think, to raise... Don't you roast like the elder statesman of an industry when you get to a certain point? Okay, we'll see you all in Albany for the roast of Jack Deanna. Thanks so much to Christine, JR, the board, Aztec Geothermal, and certainly Zach and John in particular. I was with John Chavaco in Washington, D.C. about a month ago, and what were we doing? We were working on the IRA 2 years after it was enacted. We were rallying signers for a number of letters that we had active in both the Senate and the House. One was led by Colorado Senator Michael Bennett, which was sent to the Treasury Department last month. The other was led by Illinois Congressman Sean Casten, which just went to Treasury yesterday. We are nearing the 11th hour of some proposed regulations that were issued last November, which they've caused a lot of consternation in the industry because these proposed regs there's some good and some bad. The bad part is that they would propose prohibiting shared ownership of geothermal heat pump systems, which many of us in the room realize is kind of a key business case for thermal energy networks, community scale deployment, even third-party ownership models. We're hopeful and cautiously optimistic that we will get some remedy in the final rule, which is expected before the end of the year. I should say, before these congressional letters, over 150 organizations, companies, NYSERDA, the New York utilities, Agree, Renewable Heat Now, all weighed in. It was a chorus of a wide array of stakeholders and voices who weighed in with Treasury back in January during the open comment period to urge them to correct course on this. We will know soon, and I would like to say to any of the assembled labor leaders or folks who work with labor, we've been told Treasury will be most moved if they hear from unions. So come see me after the event or tomorrow. I would like to do a final push to get voices of labor into Treasury to see if we can make them get this right. We're going to be talking more about the IRA in some sessions tomorrow morning. I hope you'll come visit then. We're going to go kind of in depth on a lot of the provisions. I should also mention domestic content, another big issue that a lot of people are focused on. We're working diligently on that. We submitted comments back in July that were responsive to some guidance that had been issued. And this week, we will be submitting additional supplemental comments to the Treasury Department so that we can get a safe harbor table and really an easy way to prove that your project meets the domestic content requirements. All of this activity at the federal level is happening in the context of major moves on building decarbonization at the state level. New York was the leader with the CLCPA, but where I'm from in Illinois, we've got the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which has led to a Future of Gas proceeding, which is one of several throughout the country. In Minnesota, there's the Natural Gas Innovation Act. In Michigan, an aggressive clean energy law was passed. All of this stuff is happening, and it's like the stars are aligning for our industry. Never before have we had federal policy and incentives aligned with many states building decarbonization policies, and it's a tremendous opportunity for us. I should mention the Utility Network Geothermal Collaborative, which is 25 or 26 gas utilities who are all looking at getting into the geothermal business. And the awareness of thermal energy networks is really starting to take hold. 7 states now have enabling legislation. My friends at the Building Decarbonization Coalition and HEAT have been tracking this, and it's great to work with them to push TENS forward. Jens, and others, JR, we were talking a lot today about the value of GEO to the grid. All of us in this room know about the grid benefits of geothermal, but you go to different regulatory bodies and they have not yet caught on. We've got a lot of work to do there to help them understand the grid benefits. So, 2 weeks from today, an auspicious date for sure, it's the anniversary of Derek Jeter being named American League Rookie of the Year back in '96. And if you're like me, you'll be out commemorating that, but others may be watching the election returns come in. There's also that happening. A lot of people ask, what is going to happen with the election? What does it mean for these great incentives at the federal level? The IRA is going nowhere. One of the reasons we could not get New York Congressman Mark Molinaro, despite trying repeatedly to come on to our House letter, is because he signed a letter to the Speaker of the House. He was one of 18 Republican House members that said, we really like the IRA. You should leave it alone. When we go to see members of Congress, Republican offices, who are quite fond of geothermal, they say, it's what a shame that bipartisan, they pulled a trick on us and they rammed this through, and now China's getting all this money for solar panels. But we really like GEO, and we like a lot of the provisions of the IRA. In a very closely divided government, regardless of what happens with the election, they are not going to be able to overturn the Inflation Reduction Act. So we have 10 years now to build and grow this industry around these tremendous once-in-a-lifetime incentives. Christine, this morning I was moved by your call to action and the need to collaborate, and that's what these sorts of events are all about. I met probably a dozen people that I had not met before today that I'm going to be forging relationships with going forward. The collaboration, the bridge building, and the unified forward movement of this industry is what it's all about. Zainem Bagavi calls it the work of winning. And yes, winning is fun, but it's also a lot of work, absolutely. But when the prize is creating a better world, don't you want to do that work? So I look forward to tomorrow. Thanks so much for your time, and hope to talk to you soon.
All right, so everyone, I have the pleasure of introducing Donovan Gordon, who has held many different titles at NYSERDA since I know him, but I actually know Donovan prior to his NYSERDA days. Donovan and I were part of Long Island GEO together, the predecessor to NY-GEO. And believe it or not, I have been on boards of trade associations for 14 out of the 16 years I've been in industry. It's almost like a geothermal tax credit. I could have a 30-year career and have almost a tax credit all the time. Maybe they'll let me off of the board prior to 30 years, but we'll see. So we're gonna have Donovan come up to talk about the thermal energy network programs, and the great work that him and his team are leading at NYSERDA. From my perspective, this program has moved projects forward that wouldn't have gone forward. Some of the projects were NY-GEO site tours yesterday. 1515 Surf was funded under the predecessor program. One Java was funded under the predecessor program, Pond 4614, along with a lot of other programs. So Donovan.
Thank you, Zach. You basically gave my presentation away, all the things I was going to talk about, but thank you.
Well, we're behind schedule, so I got to catch up.
Okay, well, actually, I'm going to keep you further behind, probably. First of all, welcome, everybody. Welcome to Brooklyn, home of the WNBA champions. And also home of the soon-to-be Major League Baseball champions. I am not going to wait till April to roast Jack. Yeah, I've said this many, many times that I want to be like Jack when I grow up. Except for one thing. He said he was 6 feet when he started in the industry. The good news for me is that I've been in the industry, 13 or so years now, and I'm holding steady at 6 feet. So far, so good, Jack. Well, before I get into my presentation, I know you're introducing me, and I'm going to talk about this, but I could not do this without my team. So I'm actually going to ask my team, Scott, Sue, and Andrew, to come up. Not stand up, come up, please. These are the folks that's getting it done. So when you call me and you want all these things and all these questions and all these programs that we talk about, these three folks are the ones. We do have additional support, but these are the three folks that are really helping get things done. You can stay up here if you want, but you can go back. All right. Thank you. Now, do I just press which button do I press to move on? Okay, thank you. So I'm really just going to highlight the stuff that we've done over the years. A lot of it is, you've heard it, so I'm just going to sort of gloss over that stuff. You've heard it from Doreen this morning. Hopefully a lot of you went to the session that Sue headed up on large-scale thermal, so this stuff will not be new to you. But we've been supporting this industry since basically the very beginning, a year or two into your existence. Starting with the geothermal incentives, then the utilities took over the incentives in 2020. Then we took it to a whole nother level with the community heat pump pilot program in 2021, learned from that, and at the last conference, I said there are things now we're working on. We didn't launch the new program yet, but we've launched the large-scale thermal program. We've gotten the first batch of proposals in. The next batch, the due date is January 30th, 2025, so please, if you didn't make this one, or if you have additional projects, please bring them in for that one. But we also launched, we call it Request for Qualifications, RFQL, where we're actually looking for teams to help us build and develop the market, which I'll touch on. This is just a timeline where we've taken you from incentivizing geothermal, which was mostly residential, to pilot and developing the community scale, developing and creating the term thermal energy networks. Now we're large-scale thermal and looking at just big projects, whether they're network connected or not. And then again, the marketing support with RFQL. You've seen the slide many, many times, but very, very proud of it. We've done this is basically a summation of Pond 4614. And I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but the point I really want to emphasize is over 60% of the projects that we funded are really from single owner campuses. That's the low-hanging fruit. And if you went to Sue's session earlier, we had Northwell and we had Cornell Agritech. So we had a medical campus and we had a college campus there. And of the 6 projects that we've funded for construction, 2 of them actually one's built. We saw a tour of it yesterday, 1515, and one will be completed next year. one Java, and the other 4, we're actually in the process of contract negotiations, so hopefully we'll announce those shortly. But we're supporting 6 projects going into construction. As you can see from the map, it's equally distributed. We have a lot all over the state, almost evenly distributed across the state and downstate, which is mostly Con Ed territory. So we have a lot of projects in their area. These are the 2 largest residential projects in New York State, and they both stake that claim. They're both true. The first one is the first completed, the largest completed residential project in New York State, 1515 Serve. And one Java, when completed next year, will be the largest geothermal residential project. 2 beautiful, beautiful projects that ZBF's Geothermal has been overseeing. I'm not going to get into this. Again, you can get the large-scale thermal pond in terms of the details, but I do want to emphasize again, it's a $10 million pond over the 2 rounds, and the next round due date is January 30th. The RFQL, as I mentioned, is we're looking for pools or individual firms, but really qualified firms that have high technical, regulatory, and market expertise in 4 particular categories, from supply chain to project design, development, permitting, operations, commissioning, program design and technical support, and data collection, analysis, and measurement and verification. This is for the entire clean and resilient buildings portfolio. So this is not just limited to large-scale thermal. It's the entire portfolio of clean and resilient buildings. So we do have proposals in. We're evaluating them. So hopefully soon we'll be able to announce the companies that we've selected to help us support and build this large-scale thermal market. Now I want to get into some of the things that we've done to help NYSERDA. Well, NYSERDA is helping, but what we've done to help New-York-GEO. This is the first time in probably 7-8 years that we're not the presenter sponsor. So Con Ed, thank you. You wrote the big check. Please continue to do that. But we've been a sponsor for many, many years, so we're, as Zach has said, I've been part of this from the very beginning, even before. Something like a lot of you probably don't know about, we also have an agreement, NYSERDA and New-York-GEO, we have an agreement, a multi-year agreement, called a consortium agreement, where we're providing support, and we literally meet weekly. Me, Christine, John Rath, Scott, and Andrew, we meet weekly to talk about developing of their business plan, and really the intention is to grow membership, revenue, and services that New-York-GEO can offer to help grow the business, and we've seen the growth. I think Christine showed some slides earlier this morning as to some of the work that we're doing, so thank you. In terms of conference planning, same thing, me, Scott, and Andrew, we met weekly, again, with Christine and Zach and John and Amanda from Water Furnace to help build and develop this conference, and we've done so for the last several years. So happy to be a part of this and seeing the growth of this. Now, I don't know, where's John Shabako? You're going to love, because he loves when I go off script, so I'll sort of say that. Yeah, together, we've really moved this industry. Because when I remember coming in 2015, I'm here 9 years, and we launched the incentive program. We're just trying to, I remember you said, we're falling off a cliff. The tax credits went away, and we need some incentives, so we created the geothermal, really heat pump incentives, but focused more on geothermal. And that sort of helped things along. But we're trying to just get some residential jobs, $50,000 jobs, whatever. Then we came up with the community heat pump pilot program. And now we're seeing $20 to $50 million jobs. So within the last 4 years, we've gone from small to medium residential and small commercial to large scale district thermal energy networks with up to 50 million plus, and now we've got these utility pilots closing in on 100 million. So it won't be long, in my view, before this industry's doing 100 million to $1 billion jobs. It's already happening, I believe. Solus O'Brien is doing the $1 billion job in Princeton right now, so it's happening. The industry is getting there. So it just really... And just for the sake of time, I'm not going to get into my full background, but I've seen that happen in the previous industry that I was in, to see it grow from a nascent industry to a mainstream. I've heard that several times, and we heard from the panels today that it's becoming mainstream. I see that, and you're going to be a dominant business, and I certainly see consolidation and maybe some really good acquisitions from some big companies coming down the road. So with that, I want to say happy 10th anniversary to NYSERDA. Come with me today. I love NYSERDA, so yes, I do. Happy 10th anniversary, NY-GEO. I wish you continued growth and success over the next decade and beyond. And thank you.
Thank you, Donovan. All right, so I'm going to have the NY-GEO board members come up, and we can talk about Geopalooza. So back in 2015, NY-GEO had a conference called Geopalooza. Looked a little like we were going to Woodstock. And, as part of that, we finally had one of our board members at the time take us aside and go, I can't put that logo on my expense report. What? It was not you. But
I'm going to roll slides.
So John has some original photos that he'll share for a few seconds. And you will see how far we have come from our lovely conference background. But it was at Skidmore College, which was really exciting because it was a geothermally heated and cooling college at the time. And this was, so we had Long Island Geo that we formed in 2010-ish, 2012, and we were great, and we were, changing the world on Long Island. We had this big debate, is Brooklyn part of Long Island or not? We can have that conversation at the bar or not. We had someone from the city making the argument that, well, Brooklyn and Queens, they're really part of Long Island, and if you're a Long Islander, that is the city. Left it out, but it's really amazing to see how far the industry has come at this point. And really, with the exception of Amanda and Venetia, we're all original board members at this point. So my seat's for sale. It starts at $1 or a drink ticket. And anyway, so I know Bill has a few slides. Bill was our first executive director for many years, really leading the growth of the organization. And then he wanted to do this thing called retire. I don't quite understand what that is. But Bill really led us, to the point that we're at, that we were able to hire Christine and grow the industry and, bring the conference to Brooklyn, the real city. There we go. Yeah. All right. Do you guys want to get a quick board photo and then Bill can go? John?
Yeah.
All right.
There's some pretty funny ones. Hang on. Oh, there's Donovan. Donovan made it. There's some great ones. Young Chris Winkler.
The other thing I'm really excited about is for many years, I was the youngest person at these conferences by far. And I count at least 10 people that are younger than me. No.
There's our John Manning. Yeah. We co-presented. It was a little tense. He was a lot smarter than me. Not anymore. He's not taller anymore. He's gone the Jack Deanna way.
Those might be some of the best Jens photos I've ever seen.
There's some great. Look at that. Yay, top job. All right, we're back. So Why don't, Bill, maybe just come up and just say hello to everybody, and then we'll transition to getting Sadie to the stage. I think she's been getting.
For those of you that don't know John Chavaco, he will tell me I'm fired tomorrow if he didn't get the right photo, even though he'll be fine with it today. So sorry about that.
Fired again.
Yeah. And being fired is not really being fired. It's just like an expression of disappointment.
So let me tell you about my 4 families. I have my birth family, kind of nuclear family, and our new grandchild, Charlie, who is 6 months old. It's a great thing. I have a second family, which is great friends that I've known for like 40, 50, and 60 years who are still hanging out together. We're going to be having a potluck Saturday night when I go back to Buffalo. My third family is the rock and roll band I play in. I highly recommend everybody in the room join a rock and roll band. It is a lot of fun. But my fourth family is NY-GEO. And I have a whole rap about where different folks in this room fit in as cousins and classmates and parents and nuclear family, etc. I did want to mention, though, a few people who are really important in the very kind of center of this conference, and that is the staff people that have been working behind the scenes. We have Desiree Vosna, we have Chris and Kathy Winkler, we've got Max Chavaco, John probably knows a couple of other folks who have really provided support here, and I think we should give them a hand. But I'd really like everybody in the room to start thinking of yourself as part of the NY-GEO family. And what do families do? They support each other. They learn from each other. They model behavior. They fight with each other. And hopefully when they fight with each other, they come out learning something from it and growing closer as a result. They defend each other. They celebrate victories. They mourn losses. They reproduce and grow. They produce new generations. And good families become an active part of communities. I'd like to invite you over the next year to think of yourself more and more as part of the NY-GEO family. That might involve joining the organization if you haven't already joined it, but it also involves communicating with the folks you've met here, working together, and building our industry out. Stay in touch with each other over this coming year and become more and more part of the NY-GEO family. I'm now going to introduce our keynote speaker. Okay. And hello. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. She is Sadie McKeown. When the history of New York's transition to clean energy in response to climate change is written, if that history is well researched and well written, take a look at the index and you will see under the name Sadie McKeown page after page after page and reference after reference. I met Sadie when she and I were both members of the advisory panel, the Housing and Energy Efficiency Advisory Panel to the Climate Action Council. The advisory board developed a detailed plan for reducing New York's building emissions by 85% by 2050, and Sadie was a key and constructive part of our efforts. In fact, when we needed somebody to go before the full council and explain the costs of the plan, how it could be financed, it was Sadie and another colleague we turned to. Sadie is someone who plays an incredibly important role bridging the worlds of finance, policy, and affordability. Shortly after the advisory panel finished its work, she was appointed to the NYSERDA Board of Directors, where she served for several years. She is a recognized leader in the real estate industry's climate movement through her day job as president of the Community Preservation Corporation. These days, she is leading CPC Capital, Climate Capital, one of 3 partners in the Climate United Coalition, which is managing a $7 billion award from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. Sadie's charge in the Climate United Coalition is deploying $2.4 billion of the total award to stimulate the clean energy transition economy-wide and transform the multifamily mortgage markets. Please give a warm welcome, a warm New York GEO welcome to Sadie McKeown.
The first time I'm meeting Bill in person, so I'm really excited about that. We only knew each other on the screen during the Climate Action Council. Thank you for inviting me. I was actually a little surprised to get an invitation to a geothermal conference to be the keynote speaker. Maybe on a panel, maybe a question and answer, but to be a keynote speaker, I thought, wow, what do I have that these people want to learn about and want to know about? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, about my company, and then I'm going to talk to you about the opportunity that I think joins us together. I have the money. And I will tell you that my career at a not-for-profit, the success that I've had has been following the money. When you finance affordable housing, which does not work from a capital markets perspective, and it doesn't work from a capitalist perspective, all you do all day is chase the money to try to find sources of capital you can bring to real estate, you can bring to multifamily housing to make it more affordable. And I became really expert at that. Started at CPC in 1991 as an intern, and I became a loan officer. And for 20 years, I wrote loans and I made investments in neighborhoods. And every one of those investments, for the most part, had some source of capital outside of my mortgage that made it work. So when climate became a thing, which it's been a thing for me for a really long time, I realized those economics don't work either, right? You can't finance an affordable housing project in particular, high performance with geothermal systems, without more money. And so I took on following the money around addressing sustainability in housing alongside of affordability. And that's where we arrived at the billions of dollars that we have today. So who are we? Community Preservation Corporation is a 50-year-old not-for-profit mortgage company. We're a community development financial institution. We were founded in 1974 by David Rockefeller when the Bronx was burning. So the famous picture of Jimmy Carter and Bella Abzug standing in the rubble. This was before the Community Reinvestment Act, and the banks were frankly afraid of the investments that they had in adjacent neighborhoods, so they created CPC to address those investments. They didn't want to do it themselves. They made us a not-for-profit, certain we wouldn't make any money. And we started by doing tenant and occupancy rehabs and really shoring up buildings in neighborhoods like this. And we have 3 meta goals that we focus on every day. Affordability, really driving affordability in housing so that people have a safe, decent place to live that they can afford, take the pressure off their purse so that they can actually grow their lives. We also invest in closing the racial wealth gap. New York real estate is a white man's game, and so we've seen generational wealth. I have seen myself financial statements from the father and the son, and now I even have almost a grandson coming up into the business of people that I have financed in multifamily housing. But the brown and black community hasn't had that same benefit, and so we do a lot of programs to train and bring up and support brown and black developers. And then, of course, our commitment to expanding the clean energy transition and ensuring that the buildings that we finance are not just affordable, but they're also sustainable. We're an incredible company. We've grown significantly in the last 50 years, and no year more than the last. So we are incredibly strong. We took in recently $6 billion in the signature portfolio, the failed signature portfolio, which we're servicing now and working with the FDIC to work out those projects. Took in the $2.5 billion grant from the EPA through Climate United. In our history, we've done 230,000 units of housing, over $15 billion of investment. That's just our investment. That's leveraged billions and billions of dollars of other capital. And we're a carbon neutral company. We've been since 2020. And since we started really intentionally measuring our high-performance buildings, we've invested over $1 billion, $1.3 billion in multifamily sustainable housing. So why sustainability, and how did this happen? When did this happen? We stood up a sustainability initiative at CPC in 2008 when the Great Recession hit. Oil was $150 a barrel, rents were flat and falling, and there was tremendous pressure on affordability. And we said, you can't control the cost of the commodity, but you can certainly try and control the amount of the commodity that you need to heat and cool your building. So we said, pretty simply, let's just add additional debt to our loan because we know the building's cash flow is going to improve because we're going to drive all this energy efficiency in the building. Pretty simple, right? Where will the money come from? It should come from my mortgage. Where does the money come from to change the physical condition of any multifamily building? The majority of it comes from the first mortgage. So shouldn't we be the ones responsible for prioritizing and adapting these buildings to sustainability, to high performance? Absolutely we should. But we're not regulated to do that, right? Lenders are not regulated to do that. So we endeavored to model the way, but it was 2008, it was a recession, there was not a lot of appetite for innovation. But we soldiered on, and CPC has been a stakeholder in so many different groups around sustainability, around the transition to clean energy, and we've created guides and tools, really trying to help the lending community understand and drive sustainability. Imagine, so when I finance a building and it has asbestos, I say to the owner of the building, you can't close unless you remove the asbestos. And guess what? They remove the asbestos. Nobody pays for it except for them. There are no incentives for it. It doesn't improve their cash flow. Their tenants never see it, so they can't charge more rent. Why do they do it? Because I said they had to, right? And every lender will say to an owner of a building, not just asbestos, but radon and lead paint and everything else. Well, as far as I'm concerned, carbon is a pollutant. Why are we not asking a building owner to recognize that pollutant, measure it, and then remediate it as a part of the work scope, right? And so this is our platform. This is the way because all of a sudden, when you're driving to a closing table, it's amazing what a building owner will do, right? They bend over backwards because they want to close the loan. Once the train leaves the station and you've got your commitment, you'll do whatever it takes to get to the closing table. It's very, very powerful. Okay, so we promote energy efficiency in all of the work that we do. We're one of the very few lenders, certainly the first, that had a dedicated team of sustainability people on the phone with borrowers, really helping them understand. At first, it was just energy efficiency. It became deep energy efficiency. Then we got obsessed with passive house. Then it was electrification. I wanted to pull my hair out, kept changing. And now we're at full-blown decarbonization. And so we just keep moving with the times and moving with the government as they pass laws and regulations. So the big thing for us is really trying to change the first mortgage markets to address decarbonization. And when we think about sustainability for us, because we're a not-for-profit, it's about more than just energy efficiency and affordability. It's about accessibility. So every building should be accessible regardless of somebody's ability to get in and out of it. So that's just a basic right. We need that. It should be healthy air quality. It should be environmentally just. I mean, there's a huge amount of people that have been very negatively impacted from the pollutants that our buildings produce. It needs to be resilient to storms. Hello. I didn't put my slide in here around the number of storms and how they've increased like a hockey stick over time. That's not getting better. Not only do we have an affordable housing crisis because we're not adding units, we're losing units every year to fires and floods and storms. So we really need to make our buildings more resilient, carbon neutral and electrified with a clean energy grid. I can't do that piece, but Donovan can. One of the things that we do at CPC is we partner with unlikely partners. It's very unusual for a lender to have 3 speaking engagements in a row, one at the NY-GEO, tomorrow I'm at ASHRAE, and Thursday I'm at NYSE, right? And so I put myself in rooms full of people that I don't know. Why do I do that? Because I'm trying to share the message. I want to know what you know. I want to know how to make the buildings better. I want to know what the best way to electrify and energize these buildings. I want to understand that, and I want to try to incorporate that into the work that I do so that when I turn around to my investors and my lenders, I can educate them as to why they do it. I've always tried to build that bridge, and Bill mentioned it, but that's really where we sit at CPC. I have all of my energy friends over here. Forgive me, but I think of them as the geeks, right? And then I have all of my finance people over here. Forgive me, I think of them as the jocks, right? And if you remember high school, you had the geeks and the jocks, and they didn't really play together in the sandbox. I'm pulling people together and saying, you know, you guys in the Mortgage Bankers Association, you have to understand the energy world. You guys in the energy world understand financing. I was on the Climate Action Council with Bill. It made me insane that I was the expert in finance. I work for a nonprofit. Where was Chase? Where was Jamie Dimon? Where was Bank of America? Where was M&T, right? It is, but we are a consortium, and they are our membership. And because of how strong we are, and what you saw the statistics on the screen, we have a voice. And because of how successful we've been, we're a very credible broker of information. So when we talk to the lenders about electrification and sustainability, they listen. And when we talk to the energy people about coming towards the financing, get into a room of people you don't know, they listen and they hear us. And I talked to Bill a little bit earlier about conferences that I'd love to have your presence at, things like the New York State Association of Affordable Housing. And I say that because Ruth Ann Wisnauskas, who's the HFA, the Commissioner of New York State Housing, HCR, she was the co-chair with Janet Joseph, one of my other favorite people in the world, at the Climate Action Council. And at the end of this must have been 18 months, I sat down with Ruth Ann and I said, what do you think? And she said, in good conscience, I can't use my public subsidy to fund another new project that's hooking up to fossil fuel. She went through the process and she got it, right? She learned it. And so then we went through a process, I'm on her board as well, we went through a process to change their design guidelines, to make it all electric. If you're new construction and you're getting affordable housing subsidy, it has to be all electric. And some of you are probably very familiar because maybe you've done some of these projects. The developers bitched and moaned because it's much easier to just put in a gas system, right? That's what they know, it's cheaper, it's easier. But they weren't going to stop being developers and go become bartenders, right? They were going to bitch and moan like everybody does when they have to change, and then they were going to get really good at it. And now, every subsidized new construction project that New York State funds is all electric, and more of them are geothermal. They're larger projects, and they're getting it. Now they're competing. Now they're reaching, and one wants to be better than the other. This is exactly what we need to transition. We needed NYSERDA's help because it is more expensive. So NYSERDA, who funded all their programs differently than the state housing agency, has stood in the middle there saying, come on, guys, come together. Let's make the programs work together. And they were able to put money in through something called the Clean Energy Initiative to support the higher costs seamlessly. When you got financing from HCR, you got your NYSERDA money. So always, again, trying to make it more efficient. So we've talked a little bit about this. You guys know all about the housing policy in New York State, the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act, all of the aggressive goals to get to clean energy. And, you know, what does all this tell me? That buildings really need to participate. We can't do this without getting buildings. And that's really, really hard. You're in the auto industry and you want to create change, maybe there's 8 auto companies that you have to force to do X, and they do X, and okay. I think in the country, maybe there's 1.2 million home builders. How do you, and they're unregulated, right? How do you influence an entire industry to start to transition? There's no regulation to do it. The lenders aren't making people do it, although they should be. And the states, one by one, are starting to recognize and pass legislation and local laws to try and get us there. You guys also know this. Buildings, it's energy efficiency. You got to start there. You have to limit the amount of the commodity that the building has to consume. You have to switch to low carbon fuels or to all electric. And then you have to decarbonize the energy supply. And there's huge challenges for the stock in New York State. It is a very old housing stock. Most of it has been around for a really long time, and most of what's here is going to be here for another 100 years. And most of it burns fossil fuel, and it's highly, highly inefficient. And this is probably a little dated, but less than 3% primarily relies on electricity for heating and cooling. It is changing, but it's a huge hill to climb. So what are we doing at CPC to try and climb the hill? We're following the money. The first program I want to talk about, this is just a New York State program. Some of you were on our webinar on the Climate Friendly Homes Fund, and you heard us talk a lot about air source heat pumps. New York State gave us a program. They put out an RFP for $250 million to electrify 10,000 apartments in small buildings, 5 to 50 units. We told them day one, the program's not going to work. They said, this is the program. Go try to make it work and come back. So we tried to make it work, and we stood up a program. We did a few small buildings, but why didn't it work? They didn't want us to work with the first mortgage, right? They wanted us to do it mid-cycle when somebody wasn't getting financing. That's really hard. You can't get somebody's attention, right, unless their boiler breaks. And frankly, if their boiler breaks and they don't know about the Climate Friendly Homes Fund, they're just going to put in another boiler, right? So we got them to change that. We also got them to let us do larger buildings. It's only for existing buildings. And we've gotten them to loosen up on some of the other requirements that were making it difficult. We also said, they said, you only have 25,000, you can't spend more. We said, that's ridiculous. And honestly, it was after the webinar, I ended up on a little group chat with some of you in the room from NY-GEO, and I was listening to the complaints. They didn't talk at all about ground source heat pumps. Well, because we didn't think you could do ground source heat pumps for 25,000 a unit on small buildings. What I want to say to you is if we can, particularly now that we can do larger buildings, bring them to me. If you're working on an existing project, or in these, the challenge here is it's not new, it's existing buildings, and you need subsidy. Think of it as a subsidy. Think of it as like your tax credits, right? If you've got a 100-unit building and it's 50,000 a unit to do geothermal, I'm making this up, I have no idea. Let it be 25,000, let me give you 25,000 in grants. I need you to bring those deals to me. We're out there trying to generate business, and we go to our customers, but you guys have customers too. So we chased this down. We're administering $250 million. We've done about 400 units so far. We got to get to 10,000. I need your help. The next thing that we did, and it's a housing program, right? You guys don't know about housing programs. You're not chasing housing programs, right? You're contractors. You're doing geothermal. So here I am trying to build the bridge, and I need to bring any customer in the door that I can. The second thing we chased was the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. So in August of 22, the IRA hit, and now I've been pushing the rock up the hill trying to get the first mortgage markets to integrate decarbonization into their process. And $27 billion in the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, part of the IRA, hits for nonprofit lenders. It wants us to significantly reduce greenhouse gas. It wants us to do it primarily in low-income communities, and it wants us to drive private market capital transformation. That was a gauntlet for CPC. If not us, then who? We've done 230,000 units. We have the only national nonprofit mortgage bank in the country. We do equity investing. We do construction lending. And so we said, we know how to do this work. PACE has not worked in multifamily. Utilities, I love them, but there's like a tiny little pinhead of utilities for this much money that we need, right? We can't rely on incentives. I love NYSERDA. I have advocated for a USERDA, the United States Energy Research and Development Authority, because we need it. But it's not enough money, right? And so we need to get the first mortgage markets to adapt. So we're going to take the money, we're going to make it subordinate debt capital behind the first mortgage, and we're going to work with the first mortgage market lenders and teach them about how to do decarbonization in buildings. We're going to put carbon in the phase 1 site assessment, call it a pollutant. We're going to measure it. Somebody's going to design a scope for decarbonizing it to our standards, and we're going to pay them $8,000 a ton of carbon removed. We joined Climate United. Bill mentioned that before too. It's a great group of not-for-profits. We're all very aligned. We do different things. We're the multifamily team. And we're in the $14 billion National Clean Investment Fund. If you don't know, the rest of the 27 There's $7 billion just for solar, community solar and rooftop solar in low-income communities. Then there's $6 billion to bring other not-for-profit lenders to the table to try to do this work. And our money, the $14 billion, goes into projects. The majority of my money is going into heat pumps, it's going into insulation, it's going into EV infrastructure for the buildings. And so our approach, this is our North Star, planet, people, and scale. We have to scale this. We're trying to have good outcomes for people, and we're really trying to address the planet. If you read the notice of funding for the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, it was that they're asking us to do everything. They're asking us to do so many things with this program, and we're really trying to stick to our knitting and do what we do best. You guys know this, energy efficient building, all electric, clean power, I mentioned that. And these are our standards. So with Janet Joseph's help, we developed a standard for existing buildings and a standard for new construction. And our new construction standard is all electric building, distributed energy on site, and EV infrastructure. And it's hard to do 100% distributed energy on site to power the building because most buildings are not, they don't have enough space. We're not requiring people to buy RECs. We're also not requiring the money that you borrow is not tied at all to the performance of the systems. We know that if the system is properly designed up front and completed, that you're going to get the performance and the savings. We've seen it. I financed my first geothermal project about 23 years ago. So I know it works, right? So that's our clean air. The clean air boost is if you can get all of the distributed energy to pay for the energy on site. But if you have an existing building, it's much harder. What we will not do is an oil to gas conversion. We will not use this money to support a new fossil fuel system at a project, period. If you have a gas system and it's in good condition, you can leave it and we'll give you a zero overtime operations and maintenance plan with a reserve deposit so that when that system fails, you have money and a roadmap to electrify the building. We have been pressured enormously to do oil to gas conversions because it's easier. The building codes allowed it, and we're swimming upstream here, right? People don't have to do this. They do not have to electrify. Their lenders aren't telling them to do it. Most state housing agencies are not telling them to do it. The building code is allowing them to continue to do fossil fuel. And it's expensive, right? And so what do we have? We have this incentive capital. So we'll give you a zero overtime plan. We'll make the building as energy efficient and as tight as possible. We'll bring the electricity to the building so that when the time comes, you're ready. We have a series of different products. We have pre-development for people that really don't know what to do or how to get started. We can help them pay for the design of a geothermal system or a complete conversion, a passive house project. All of our debt is subordinate. We can come in during construction or we can come in when the project's complete. It's a federal program, so if we come in during construction, we trigger the federal cross-cutters, Davis-Bacon and related acts, and Build America, Buy America, we don't think we have to deal with, which is a good thing. And here we're paying $8,000 a ton. And what we have done with this has been really exceptional because it has forced owners to think not about, I have a gap in my deal, give me this much money. It has forced them to say, oh, you mean if I make my scope even better, I can get more money from you? Yes. And most of the things that they do to drive a more efficient building aren't that expensive. The systems are expensive, but the rest of the stuff is not that expensive. So we're incenting them to really think about the design and the carbon. And this is my last slide. This is our first project that we're going to be financing, and it's geothermal. I'm so excited I could bring it to you. And it's a great project because it was the adaptive reuse of an old 1910 four-story brick building. They tore the newer build part off, and they built a new building, and it's all attached. It's 100% geothermal. They have a huge array on the roof. They get about 60% of their energy through the solar that they produce. It's 100% affordable for seniors, and it's walkable. It's in a Westchester downtown. It's a fantastic, it checks every one of our boxes. And so we're going to take this and we're going to take it on the road as a case study and we're going to promote geothermal, right? Now, what do I need then? I need the connectivity to your organization, not just here in New York. This is a national program. So I need connectivity to this industry, and I was so excited to hear all the jobs and all the training, and because that's the other thing that we need. We're supposed to build out the infrastructure for jobs for this program. So I really need that connectivity. So I'm going to work with all of you because I followed the money and the dog caught the car. So now I have, $2.5 billion that I need to deploy in 5 years. 5 years. I can couple it with the tax credits. They want us to braid all of the IRA incentives. So if you're doing a deal, and it doesn't have to be in a low-income or disadvantaged community, we've pledged 60% of it will be, but it doesn't have to be. I can't do luxury, though. I can't do that. So if it's a non-luxury, like a downtown redevelopment or something, we can put the money into the deal. So you know about it now. You know what I'm trying to do. Whoever you're working with and you're talking about the tax credits, you should tell them to think about GGRF. And I need to hear from their lender. I need to get the lenders focused on this and thinking about this, because the idea is that when this money starts to go away, we will, from a policy perspective, talk about all the other things that need to change to make this more permanent. $2.5 billion is not going to change the multifamily markets. But when I've done 10 of one type of project or 20 of one type of project, I can say, for all of your low-income housing tax credit deals, instead of GGRF, you should boost the credit and require electrification and decarbonization. For all of your Section 8 contract deals, you should increase the rents in the base contract. So now people can borrow enough and require electrification. Can't just be my responsibility. So we are going to do that with our policy voice, and we're really hoping not to accelerate the transition, but to really animate the transition. And through relationships with organizations like yours, we're going to keep carrying this message forward. So I'm excited to be here. It's probably a different message than you've been hearing all day, but we have a lot of money, and I need your help. Thank you.
Servant, I want to thank Sadie for coming. Sadie might be the most popular person among my developers. I work with 20 plus affordable housing developers, including Wider Balter, and 62 Main Street. Yes. So I had 2 developers vying to be the first CPC close. I don't know if you know this. Yes, I do. So, and I'm involved with both of them. And when one found out the other one closed first, I got well, did you influence Zach? And I'm glad they think I have that much influence, but I don't. But anyway, so we talked to developers from New York City to Buffalo to New Orleans to Utah. And everyone goes, hey, have you heard about this GGRF funds? So I just want to thank Sadie for doing an amazing job for her and her team getting this program out there. And while it doesn't sound like a lot of money, it's enough money that it's making splashes. And sometimes all you need to do is actually get a developer to start thinking about geothermal. On a new LIHTC supported deal, geothermal is almost always the cheapest. These days, we've proven it time and time and time again in New York City. And if I can make it work economically in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, in Queens, we can make it work almost anywhere. So thank you, Sadie.
You're welcome. Our experience is that once you go geothermal, you never go back. Thank you.
All right, so the conference continues tomorrow morning. I'm going to steal a John Travacco line, which is do not drink too much because the conference is starting without you. But 8:30?
8:30. Back here, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. As Sadie says, we got a lot of work to do. So, get some sleep. 4 tracks, 4 sessions per track. Great keynote speaker.
And you are going to hear from developers tomorrow, including the other one that's about to close on a GGRF loan in the morning. So, on the main developer panel at 8:30. So if you're late, you're not going to get their wisdom.
So if you were a top job winner, if you could please stay. We just would like to take a real quick group photo of all the top job winners with their awards and our friends from Water Furnace.